Welcome to the Dr.Maria Show. President Trump has fired the National Security Agency's director, General Tim Howe, Haugh. Now, some people, some critics, even Newsmax is saying it is due to a visit from Laura Loomer. Laura Loomer is a conservative podcast host and is friendly with President Trump. She is suing Bill Maher, I believe, for $50 million because Bill Maher said that Laura Loomer was having an affair with President Trump. Anyways, back to the NSC. Also, General Howe's second in command, Wendy Noble. She has not been fired as reported. She has been reassigned to the Pentagon. But Laura Loomer did have a lot to say on X. It is a little bit of a long tweet, but we're going to put it up for you. And this is what she said. NSA Director Tim Howe and his deputy, Wendy Noble, have been disloyal to President Trump. This is why they have been fired. As a Biden appointee, General Howe had no place serving in the Trump administration, given the fact that he was handpicked by General Milley, who was accused of committing treason by President Trump. Why would we want an NSA director who was referred to Biden after being hand-selected by Milley, who told Trump he would side with China over the United States? Sorry, I'm ad-libbing a little bit there. That's not exactly the wording. She said that after being hand-selected by Milley, who told China he would side with them over Trump. The vetter should have been more critical given the fact that the Pentagon revoked the security detail and clearance for retired General Mark Milley, who called President Trump a fascist. Why would we want Milley's hand-picked choice for NSA director? We do not, and he was referred for firing. Given the fact that the NSA is arguably the most powerful intel agency in the world, we cannot allow for a Biden nominee to hold that position. Thus, Howe was fired today, which was several days ago, along with his Obama-loving protege, Wendy Noble. This is called vetting. His deputy, Wendy Noble, is a protege of Trump hater James Clapper, who frankly belongs in prison. President Trump has accused Clapper of spying on his campaign, and Clapper falsely accused the Russians of stealing the election for Trump. James Clapper is a traitor to his country, as are all of the enablers and supporters. Why would we want Clapper's protege at the NSA? Of course, Wendy Noble was referred for firing. She is a Trump hater who was nominated by Joe Biden. Additionally, Wendy Noble spent her time at the NSA promoting DEI. Their firings are a blessing for the American people. Thank you, President Trump, for being receptive to the vetting materials provided to you, and thank you for firing these Biden holdovers. Vettings matter. So she's basically taking credit for these firings. But my sources are telling me Wendy Noble was not fired. She was removed from the NSA, but she has been repositioned in the Pentagon. So we don't have accurate information on that one, but definitely Laura Loomer is taking credit that she provided information to the president and then he acted upon it. Here's what President had to say on Air Force One about Laura Loomer.
Your National Security Council, how many staffers?
Oh, there were some. Always, we're going to let go of people that we don't like, or people that we don't think can do the job, or people that may have loyalties to somebody else.
Can you tell us a little bit about your meeting with Laura Loomer and Mike Waltz today, and how that came about?
So, Laura Loomer is a very good patriot. She's a very strong person, and I saw her yesterday for a little while. She makes recommendations of things and people, and sometimes I listen to those recommendations, and she'll always have something to say, usually very constructive.
What did she recommend?
She recommended certain people for jobs.
Adding to the administration, not
Adding.
Who did she
not
recommend?
firing.
Well, she'll recommend that too. But yesterday she recommended some people for jobs.
Did she have anything to do with the NSC aides who were ousted?
No, not at all.
Do you know how many, sir? Do you know how many from the NSC?
Not many.
Who did Laura recommend hiring?
Well, I don't want to say that, but she's recommended some good people over the years. She's been in the party a long time. She's done a good job.
There you have it. He's saying she didn't really have anything to do with the NSC firings. Who knows? But here to help me figure this out, Kara Castronova, who is the White House correspondent for LindellTV. Good evening, Kara.
Hey, Maria, how are you?
A lot going on in Washington, despite the fact that President Trump is in Miami. What's going on around there? I hear fencing is going up.
Yes, there's a lot of fencing actually, and I was thinking of actually going out there and making a video right after I get off with you. Uh, Maybe taking bets, wondering if there's going to really be thousands of people here, like they're saying, that are here to protest President Trump. They're dubbing it the Day of Rage, as well as a website that's saying it's called the No More protest. Basically, Elon Musk protest, essentially, and a protest against President Trump saying no more. Whatever that means, it's very vague. I had pulled up that website. I want to read to you the description of the protest tomorrow. It sounds a lot like Bernie Sanders messaging, because I do follow him on X, just because they say you got to follow these people to understand where they're coming from. And half the time I have no idea why he's saying the things that he does, but it's called the Hands Off National Day of Action. And that's here tomorrow. It begins at the National Mall, and they're going to march down here to the White House, which is why they installed all of this riot fencing around the White House, and they had to cancel Melania Trump's garden tours, because this is just for safety purposes, according to the Secret Service. But according to this website, Donald Trump and Elon Musk think this country belongs to them, quote unquote. They're taking everything they can get their hands on and daring the world to stop them. On Saturday, April 5th, which is tomorrow, we are taking to the streets nationwide to fight back with a clear message: hands off. And now, again, this is the Hands Off 2025 website. This is the one that is advertising this protest tomorrow. I don't know what they mean when they say hands off. To me, it seems like what President Trump and Elon Musk are doing is they're trying to save American taxpayer dollars and stop the waste and the fraud. But clearly that message is not, getting through to these leftist organizations. And I think a lot of this comes off of, Bernie Sanders lately on Twitter really not outright calling for violence, but really instigating, in my opinion, anger and stoking fear that's not necessary, and making people think that somehow Donald Trump and Elon Musk are coming for them, which is very bizarre. So that's happening here tomorrow, and I will be in Washington, D.C. So if anything interesting happens, I'll try to get some video with my phone and post it on social media.
I don't understand the rhetoric and the hate from the Democrat Party. When I was growing up, at least in New Hampshire, you couldn't see a lot of difference between the Democrats and Republicans. We all wanted the same thing: a safe country, law and order, following the Constitution. And anybody who was really raised in New Hampshire, us old timers, were very frugal. So we always have to have a balanced budget in New Hampshire. We never go beyond what our budget says. So this hatred that is coming from the Democrat Party, you would think they would have learned from it, Kara. Remember the summer of hatred of 2020, where elected
Right.
officials were promulgating, burning the buildings, going up to Republicans, forcing them to leave restaurants? We wonder why our young people are acting like this, because they're seeing adults acting like this. But
Right.
now they want to take down Elon Musk. For what? They used to hail this guy as the man who's going to save the earth with his Teslas.
I mean, it's all being propagated by the likes of, like I said, Bernie Sanders types. I do follow him on X, and I can't believe some of the things he says sometimes. He should know better. I mean, he's a man who's advanced in age. He's seen a lot of things, and he really capitalizes on stoking the fears of these young people. really making them think that somehow the world is coming to an end. I think he's been through a lot of political cycles in his lifetime, and he knows that, that's not going to happen, but it doesn't seem to matter. I mean, all that seems to matter is his agenda, which is, I don't know if it's running for president again. He's been doing the tours around the nation with AOC. I don't know if he plans on running as for vice president, but it seems like those two are up to no good. And one of the things that they do best is just get people enraged. They get the young people furious. And it's really unhealthy for the nation. And people are living in a constant state of fight or flight. It's unhealthy. The mainstream media really pushes this fight or flight. This, the world is coming to an end and everybody needs to fight and take to the streets. And it's just really unhealthy. But when you have politicians, like I said, that are the age of Bernie Sanders, he should just know better. And it's just not healthy for America. And it's become the norm and it's not acceptable.
I often try to think logically anyway, and I try to, like you're following Bernie Sanders to try to understand him. I too try to seek to understand, but I can't wrap my head around their rhetoric in their hate for other human beings when they like to say they're the party of diversity, but they don't mean diversity of thought. Because they don't like that. Even if it's from somebody within their own party, they're going to attack you for not going along with that company line.
And it's just devoid of facts. I mean, I do talk to a lot of counter protesters here. There aren't, but to be fair, there's not many. Some of them linger around the gates at times, and it's generally Elon Musk's derangement syndrome. They have a problem with Doge. And then really, if you ask for more facts or try to dig deeper with them, they just don't have any. And that's the honest to God's truth. Like, I do try to see their point of view. I'm like, these people are mad. Why are they mad? I want to know why they're mad. But they don't even know why they're mad. They're just mad. Like, they're like, oh, Elon is trying to rob us. He's trying to take our money. I'm like, Elon's like a high billionaire. He doesn't need your money. He's not trying to take your social security check. He's not trying to go in jail. He has a really good life. But they just are convinced. And it's, again, the mainstream media just spreading senseless rumors, really conspiracy theories. It's the left-wing media pushing this really crazy conspiracy theory that somehow Elon Musk is trying to take over the world and that everybody should be fearful. And, it's pushing people to come out here and protest, and they don't know what they're protesting because there's no substantial facts to anything that they say. And I always try to dig deeper, and I'll give them some facts. Like, there's some things that we're paying for that we shouldn't be, like transgender plays in other countries or whatever it is. I will share with them, and they just have no idea that's even happening. They're like, I didn't know that. I wouldn't support that. You're right. You're right. So it's like the mainstream media is not giving them the facts. They're just stoking them. And it's just very sad. It's very sad.
Interesting. President Biden's former chief of staff, Ron Klain, has written a book, and he's given some people advance copies. I want to disclose I have not read the book. I'm going to report on what is being reported. So apparently in the book, he admits that President Biden wasn't all there, oftentimes was confused when planning on his campaign. It seemed that President Biden didn't know what he was talking about and ended up going to take a break and saying, I'm going to the pool, and just left the meeting. And you're the one that told me, I never understood the fake Oval Office. Like, why would you have a fake Oval Office? I've been in that Oval Office, so I knew it was a fake set. But you're the one that told me it was to put up teleprompters. But what are the leftover Biden administration people saying? Are they talking about this book? Are they coming forward admitting that they saw the dementia as well?
Well, I haven't spoken to anyone that's left over from the Biden administration. Thank God Trump has rooted most of them out. And thank God for people like Laura Loomer, who continues to expose these leftover riffraff that remains from the Biden administration. Hopefully she'll continue to do so, because the DOJ still has a lot of treacherous characters in there that are waiting literally in their foxholes, to rise again. When President Trump is not in office in 4 years, they're hoping that they'll be able to reemerge and continue to persecute Trump supporters the way they did Rudy Giuliani, Roger Stone, General Flynn, and all these other great patriots. They will come for Elon Musk next. They will come for JD Vance next. So hopefully they're all rooted out. But yes, of course, there are some Biden leftovers. They're called career bureaucrats, career criminals. criminals more than likely that remain here in Washington, D.C. You sense their presence. It's beautiful here, but you always sense something is off. And, obviously, as time progresses, they are being rooted out. President Trump just fired those two individuals that you mentioned earlier and fired others at the Department of Justice recently, but there's many more to fire. And I'm glad that people are finally coming out and speaking out about President Biden's incompetency and just how the Democrat Party really just colluded to hide that from the American people. Hopefully this will hurt Democrats in the future because they're just not honest. I think that if it was a Republican president, the Republican Party would have taken matters into their own hands, perhaps, and found a way to put somebody else up there. I actually was speaking to someone recently from another country, from Russia, who said that people in Russia were laughing, literally laughing, and they couldn't believe that the American people had said our image around the world was so low. They couldn't believe that the American people wouldn't take it into their own hands to get rid of this person who was literally walking around in circles, that it was actually sad. So our image was so damaged around the world and the image of the American people that we would actually put up with this, put up with a senile person, very sadly had dementia and didn't know what he was doing. But, the cover up for it was criminal, and those people continue to get weeded out.
And there were so many people, Kara, we all saw it with our eyes. We knew he was very different. When he started running in 2019, that man was different than the vice president in the Obama administration. He was clearly different and then progressively got worse. But I'm upset because it defrauded the American people. We don't know who was behind half the agenda items. We don't know where the pardons came from. But how about the nerve of this Ron Klain when back in the day he defended President Biden? Just watch this.
And was suffering from a cold that really constrained his voice and constrained his ability to be forceful in the debate. And he was trying not to lose his voice, it was very scratchy and very impacted by his cold. But the president is absolutely sharp, fit, on top of his game.
What did you advise him to do? I had hoped he would stay in at RA. I thought that he, as he said in that remarks, I thought his record and his vision merited another term. And, we've been on the Biden roller coaster up and down. He had lost in Iowa, lost in New Hampshire in 2020, went on to win the nomination, win the presidency. We've been through ups and downs in his presidency. So I thought this was another turn on the roller coaster. We should fight through it.
I have no respect for this man. I really challenged myself. And if I was supporting a president who I later saw had dementia, I would have to call it out. I know myself, I would have to do what was right. Whether that's a good or bad thing sometimes, I don't know. But here's how the world saw him, just like you said. Look at him looking confused on stage.
Mr. President, thank you. At the end of such a momentous event, the word thank you seems kind of inadequate. But for all the millions whose lives will be saved, for the communities where life will be transformed, thank you. So thank you, President Biden, for your outstanding...
It's so sad.
Disgraceful.
Right, and they just cover up for him. That's the more even the disgraceful part. That announcer, whoever he was, just trying to act like what was happening was normal and giving him accolades. The guy doesn't even know what he's saying. It's just like the cover up is worse. And the fact that these people were complacent, they were colluding, obviously behind the scenes saying, how could we hide this from the American people? And constantly continuing to try to cover up for him. Like people don't have eyes and ears. It makes it just so much more ridiculous. So hopefully the Democrat Party actually... Right. They said
told
we
us
were lying,
we weren't seeing what we were seeing.
Right.
They told us we were
Right.
making it up. Even Hollywood stars, George Clooney, took a pat on the back when he wrote the letter for Biden not to continue with his campaign. But a week prior, he had a campaign event with him saying the guy's strong, the guy's mentally fit. So I don't trust any of them, and they have to work very hard to get their credibility back. I always said good people need to either leave Democrat Party. You could join whatever you want, Libertarian, Independent, Republican, or create your own. But how can you stay in a party that is anti-American, promotes lying, promotes sexualizing our children, and cheers to kill a baby up to 9 months inside the mother's womb? Oh, I get so
Right.
angry. So
No, it's very
anything
scary.
on tap? Excuse me, Kara. Anything on tap for next week at the White House that we can look forward to?
Yeah. I mean, of course, generally early in the week, Caroline Levitt does a press briefing, and it's always very informative. And there's always some nice exchanges between her and some, liberal reporters, like, for example, CNN. I don't know why they continue to take questions from them, but generally that's what happens. Hopefully, I'll get a question in there. I always have some good questions in the queue. And, President Trump will obviously be back from his, he's there this weekend, obviously, down in Florida at Doral at that golf tournament, that Saudi Arabian golf tournament, the Live golf tournament, and doing business, obviously, on the golf course and probably closing some deals having to do with his trip to Saudi Arabia, which is coming up in May. So we expect, obviously, President Trump to be back and update us on what is going on with that. And hopefully, some nice briefings with the president. As always, he loves talking to the media. He takes more questions than any president ever has in the history of the White
Absolutely.
House, and is generally very open to talking to reporters. So it's been a pleasure to be here at the White House to witness that.
I'm just curious. Karine Jean-Pierre always had the questions in advance, and she picked only particular reporters, the ones that were friendly to at that time, the Biden White House. Do you have to submit questions to Caroline Levitt?
No, that's not something we do. Caroline Levitt, I think, is pretty prepared where she doesn't need the questions submitted in advance. That's called, obviously, not it's just not what the press secretary is supposed to do. She takes questions, obviously, from CNN, who are very combative. She takes questions from MSNBC, who are always trying to get her with a question. For example, last week, they just wouldn't stop about the Signal Gate stuff. She was being attacked left, right, and center, but she just kept fielding these questions from the leftist media, really setting them straight with facts, armed with charts, armed with figures. She takes questions generally from MSNBC as well, like I mentioned, who last week, not just Signalgate, but who were just consistently, constantly pounding her about the judges and how they're saying the due process of these illegal aliens are being violated, the ones that were sent to El Salvador, really just constantly coming at her about those deportations. So she does take really hard questions, and her predecessor obviously did not. She would only field friendly questions that would make the Biden administration look good, while Caroline Levitt is very different in the sense that she's not fearful of taking those hard questions.
President Trump listened to the American people, and he's ticking off everything he promised to us, including election integrity, recently signing an executive order where for federal elections, you have to prove you're an American citizen. Now, 19 Democratic AGs from different states are suing the Trump administration, saying that would be too burdensome for the election staff. Are you kidding me? We're worried about being burdensome. Don't we want to have integrity?
Of course. They don't want integrity. They want to be able to cheat. I mean, obviously, anyone from New York with common sense could smell a rat anywhere. And if anybody's against election integrity and providing IDs to vote and actually having secure elections, it's because they have nefarious agendas like stealing elections or want to keep the ability around to do so in the future. President Trump won this election, obviously, with a landslide, but he's still fighting for election integrity because he knows better than anyone just how easy it could be to fool the public. When it comes to an election, that 2020 election, still people have questions. And will we ever get to the bottom of them? Who knows? Like, I hope that we do, because I still don't think that there's a person that lives in this country that doesn't have questions about that election. And that goes for Democrats too. I have plenty of Democrat family members. They have since 2020 started leaning a little bit more towards the Republican side of things. But they all said to me in 2021, you know what? We did what we had to do. If we cheated, I'm okay with it because we had to get Trump out. So even they were admitting to me, my Democrat family members, that they were okay with cheating because that's how important it was to get President Trump out. So they even had questions back then. They just would never say it on the record, obviously, but amongst family, obviously you could say anything. And I always had my jaw dropping to the floor listening to some of the things that they would say, because obviously the fake news was feeding them information about how dangerous President Trump was. And they thought that the end justified the means when it came to possibly cheating on in elections.
Well, that's the Marxist ideology that is rampant in the Democrat Party, demoralizing our morals and making it okay to lie, cheat, steal. It doesn't matter. But thank you for joining me, and stay safe at that rally/riot. I hope that doesn't end up to be, but please be safe.
Thank you, Dr. Maria. Have a great weekend.
Well, we're going to take a short commercial break. And when we get back, we've got to talk more about the tariffs, because I have some good news for you. Stay with me.
Forget about keto, carnivore, low carb, and intermittent fasting diets. If you want to drop stubborn extra pounds and maintain a healthy weight, you need to rejuvenate your overworked liver. Studies have shown that the rate of an overworked liver has skyrocketed by 131% over the past 30 years. And lots of things have contributed to that, like eating processed junk food, drinking alcohol, and even toxic exposure. That's why it is crucial that you take action now to rejuvenate your liver. And that's exactly what Liver Health Formula can help you do. Join in thousands of others in supporting a thriving liver and healthy weight. You can try Liver Health Formula risk-free, and as a bonus gift, receive a free bottle of omega-3s with your order. Try Liver Health Formula by going to getliverhelp.com/Lindell and claim your free bonus gift. That's getliverhelp.com/Lindell.
I'm going to fill this box here, and I'm going to try to replicate the indoor environment that most people face anywhere in the world today. The more energy efficient that we become, the more airtight that we make our houses, the more toxic it is for our environment. Our technology is vibrating the air at a rate of speed. Anything that is 0.001 microns or larger does not stand a chance in the presence of not only photocatalytic oxidation, but needlepoint negative ionization. We're sending out an ion wave that is going through walls, doors, floors, carpets, paddings, draperies, and it's synergistically vibrating the air, and it's going to drop it down to the ground as a biologically inert substance. Now, this is where you're going to come in. You can mop this matter, you can vacuum it, you can sweep it, but our technology is going to make sure that you're not continuously breathing this in.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed, because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
You all know I stand by the truth. And if I put my name on something, I truly believe in it. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce you to something I'm incredibly proud of. My own brand of organic specialty coffee, Rudy Coffee. Believe me when I say it's the best coffee you'll ever try. It's smooth, rich, chocolatey, and gentle on your stomach. It's so good, I even recommend drinking it black. It comes in 3 varieties, including what I promise is the best decaf you'll ever have. You can order now by scanning the QR code on your screen or by visiting rudy.coffee. By supporting Rudy Coffee, you're not just treating yourself to exceptional coffee, you're also supporting our cause, the cause of truth, justice, and American democracy. You'll also be supporting the Call to Action nonprofit, which is devoted to helping veterans and first responders. So you can make a difference and taste the difference by ordering today at Rudy.coffee.
Are you looking for monthly income without the risk of stocks? Here's something you won't hear on CNBC. There's actually a unique way to collect royalties directly from America's most productive oil fields. No exploring, drilling, or operational headaches. You simply collect checks month after month. The best part? You can get started with just $25 through any brokerage account. The Oxford Club's chief income strategist, Mark Lichtenfeld, breaks down what he believes is the #1 oil royalty play for 2025. Visit mariaoilboom.com now to learn more. That's right, mariaoilboom.com. Stop buying oil stocks and start collecting oil royalty checks instead. We have 37 trillion reasons for a new economic plan, and President Trump is delivering on that. A lot of people don't understand what tariffs are and what they do. Hopefully, people, the American public, got to see President Trump's presentation in the Rose Garden, how much our goods are taxed going to other countries in opposition to how little we tax other countries sending goods into the United States. But we've already seen people coming forward. Vietnam said, whoa, wait, President Trump, we don't want this high tariffs. What about if we don't do any tariffs? And President Trump is willing to talk about that. Canada recently came up and out and said, you know what, we don't want this fight. We don't have tariffs on either side. The only agreement to such a zero tariff policy like that is with Argentina. Argentina and the United States just signed an agreement, no tariffs on either side. Now, that does kind of defeat the Trump administration wanting to get income coming into the United States to help with our very large deficit. But you know, if we want to talk about free trade, that is really free trade if neither side is going to have tariffs. But here with me is Gavin Wax, the president of the Young Republican Club of New York. So Gavin, your article recently in Town Hall got the attention of the President of the United States. President Trump seemed to be quite impressed with your article. Can you expand on what you were trying to convey?
Absolutely. Well, first off, thank you for having me, Dr. Maria. It's great to speak with you today. And look, it's always an honor when the President of the United States reads your work and then goes as far as to share it. This latest article, as you mentioned, pertains to tariffs, in particular tariffs on China, on the CCP. And what I was proposing was a unique scheme to tariff China tied to pollution. So we could kill two birds with one stone. We can protect American industries and help reshore those industries back to the United States. And at the same time, we could tackle a global problem, an environmental problem, a problem that many Democrats supposedly care about, which is pollution. We know China is a massive abuser as it comes to the environment. They're an abuser of labor rights. They have really no regulatory framework to speak of when it comes to their sweatshops. And I think a tariff on China tied directly to their carbon emissions would be a way to bring Democrats to the table potentially and support tariffs as a means to help the environment, but at the same time cure many of the economic woes that President Trump has been seeking to address through tariffs, namely the offshoring of critical American industry and manufacturing jobs, and to deal with this massive trade imbalance. And it looks like China has been reticent to negotiate with the Trump administration, so I think the opportunity is here in the next round of negotiations to push this issue. We've seen that the administration is very open to tying the rate of tariffs to a variety of different measures and mechanisms. I think carbon emissions could be one of them.
You know what I like about that, Gavin, is this could extend across the aisle. A lot of Democrats say they're environmentalists and they accuse Republicans of not. So they may want to work hand in hand on this.
Absolutely. I think this should hopefully find some bipartisan support in the House, in the Senate, and just anywhere in the country in terms of the political commentators. I think what we're seeing here is a common sense solution to a common problem. It is a issue of pollution. It's an issue of the environment. It's an issue that has bipartisan support in terms of fixing it. And I think we can tie it to other economic issues that we're facing. Again, the manufacturing crisis, the crisis of offshoring, the crisis of losing good paying blue collar jobs. All of these things can be fixed and more with common sense solutions like a pollution tariff. And I think President Trump is the one president, the one Republican who has the vision and the guts to do what it takes to turn this country around. And I think he would be more than open to this solution being on the table. So it's a great thing to say.
You know, you and I can talk about China for another couple hours. Their Navy has surpassed our Navy. They're in it for the long haul, but they're also responsible for the pandemic. And a lot of people aren't aware of this, but China holds a lot of our debt. We went to China to borrow money, so they actually hold our debt. And I think we should be negotiating to release us from that debt because of what happened during the pandemic. Not only did the virus come from that Wuhan lab, but then China gouged the entire world on masks and gowns, and people were paying a fortune for these basic items. But shame on us for not having that manufacturing here. We also depend on China and India for most of our medications here in the United States. So I am just happy to start picking away at China.
No, listen, I'm with you on that. We need to bring our supply chains back home, particularly a lot of these strategic supply chains. You mentioned pharmaceuticals, even microchips, rare earths, whatever it may be. We need to get all these strategic industries back under our control, back in the heartland, both to create jobs and to ensure our national security. I think this is a massive geopolitical risk to be so dependent on China for our goods and manufactured goods, and also be so dependent on them, in terms of our debt. And I think what's really brilliant about the plan that President Trump is really pushing forward is that we're trying to drive down yields. We're trying to drive down rates on the treasuries because we want to make sure we can refinance this debt and overall save the country, because we're in a massive fiscal crisis right now, whether we want to believe it or not. The market was being artificially pumped up. I'm taking a hit personally from the collapse of the markets, but I know it's the medicine that we need to make sure we have long-term economic growth, and looking at this from not a short-term perspective, but a long-term perspective. So we need to, refinance our debt. We need to bring jobs home. We need to protect the environment. And frankly, I agree with you. We need to punish China for COVID and a whole litany of other things that they've brought onto the world. I think the CCP is our main geopolitical threat and opponent, and we need to start acting that way.
And being in New York, there was several Chinese police stations. Those were real. It was CCP who would mainly spy on Chinese Americans, and they would threaten them to go along with CCP ideology. They would say, oh, we have your parents back home, or we're going to make life hard. We need you to get this information or that information here or there. They're very sophisticated, and they have a web of these Chinese stations throughout our country.
It's a complete travesty, Dr. Maria, and it's actually funny you mentioned this. I mean, these Chinese police stations, I can't imagine any other country, any other serious country allowing that to go on. And we've seen agents of the CCP continue to go after members of the Chinese diaspora, Chinese Americans. Even dance and artistic groups like Shen Yun have been targeted by the CCP, trying to have CCP agents bribe federal officials to get their tax status revoked, having bomb threats at their performances at the Kennedy Center. So these are the actions of a very deranged government. The Chinese Communist Party is acting in an incredibly deranged way, going after Shen Yun, going after Chinese Americans, trying to invade our country through spy balloons, illegal police stations, and even the student visas are being abused. You have many, spies committing espionage on our shores, Chinese citizens who came over here as student visas. Some of them even joined our armed forces. There was a case recently where several members of the Army were prosecuted for espionage. They came over here as immigrants from China. So this is an absolutely abhorrent situation that we're dealing with, and we need to get tough on China. We need to get strong on China, and we need to bring them to heel.
Gavin, are you surprised that there's increased investment in the United States in such a short period of time? He was just inaugurated on January 20th, and we have Hyundai, who's now going to do more manufacturing in the United States versus in South Korea. We have Saudi Arabia, who's going to be investing more dollars. We have, I don't even remember all the different countries who say they're going to help and invest. Are you surprised it happened so quickly?
Not at all. Not with President Trump at the helm. The art of the deal, we're seeing it in real time. I think this is only going to continue to develop. We're only going to see more investments in the United States. We're only going to see more people bring their money and their capital into the United States. I think even when it comes to these trade negotiations, what we're going to see with the tariffs is the tariffs are actually going to achieve real free trade, or maybe call it fair trade, because you're going to see the trade barriers that other countries have placed on our goods drop. So we're actually going to have a level playing field. They can't just go and charge us a 20, 30, 40, 50% tariff, and they do these beyond just tariffs. It's the VAT tax, it's other barriers, it's all these different rules and red tape and regulations that they use to prevent American goods from being exported into their countries. We're going to see these different countries come to the table, renegotiate. We'll have better trade arrangements. We'll have more free trade as a result of these tariffs. And the countries that refuse to cooperate, say China, will continue to level those tariffs. And I think we're going to see more industries begin to reinvest in the United States. They understand that it's not tenable to keep their production and their manufacturing and their plants and all their other capital abroad. And they're much better off bringing it back home to the United States, where many of these companies are originally from, and investing in America and Americans who we have the best talent, we have the best labor. Why not come here? Why not come back home and invest in your own country for once and reap the benefits?
I love it. And I love the reaction of the everyday worker. Here's an auto worker talking about President Trump's tariffs.
We've seen thousands and thousands of jobs leave this country. We have to start somewhere and try to bring this manufacturing back to this country.
Assistant Director of UAW Region 9, Raymond Jensen, tells me his union is in favor of the mission of the tariffs to bring more manufacturing back to the U.S.
Between the big three, there's thousands of our members laid off due to these factories, due to these corporations shipping jobs to Mexico. There's factories that are underutilized. There's factories that could add shifts. There's factories that could put a new product in there and bring these jobs back to this country where they were originally.
The union leader tells me he believes there is too much fear-mongering about the price of vehicles and believes automakers could absorb the cost. Eileen Buckley, 7 News.
It seems through this process, I've learned so much more. I never realized even shrimp we get from shrimp, that we eat from other countries. Listen to this shrimp fisherman.
Mass imports of shrimp have dramatically changed the American shrimp industry. Keep in mind that more than 90% of the shrimp that we consume here in the United States is imported from overseas. That's driving prices down, and it's making it near impossible for American shrimpers to stay in business. I want to bring in here Steve Bosarge here. He is a lifelong commercial fisherman. Steve, so you remember back in the 90s when we started as a country importing shrimp from overseas. Tell us, how did that change the American shrimping industry?
As shrimp began to flood our market, we had to learn to become more efficient. We've done that. Over the years, we've become more efficient. We've made changes to our boat, to our gear. We've done everything. We have no more tools in our toolbox left. In order for us to survive, we're going to need a lifeline. The lifeline is this form of tariffs.
Right.
President Trump has thrown us a lifeline. Hopefully, it'll help us get over the hump. I don't know, without that lifeline, I don't know if a year from now we'd have an industry. I got to say, President Trump has done more in his first 75 days to address unfair trade, which is what we're up against, unfair trade, than my industry's been able to do in the last 25 years.
Stephen, we're hearing a very similar message from shrimpers across the country through their associations who say the tariffs are a lifeline. If we continue on this trajectory, we as a nation are just importing more and more shrimp. And Steve tells me if I had been down here in the Mississippi coastline back in the 1990s, I would have seen this whole coastline dotted with shipping vessels and fish houses, a whole local economy supported by this industry. And I can tell you, Brian, I don't see that right now. And so Steve here's hoping that the tariffs will mean he's not the last of the shrimping industry here in America.
You know, Gavin, I was listening to another shrimp farmer who was saying that so many docks have closed, but we're importing all this shrimp, and he says it's from countries that use slave labor. These aren't from fresh waters. They're usually from farms of shrimp where they're overcrowded and have diseases. And even if you have to pay a little bit more in the United States, you're going to get a better product. Do you think Americans are willing to pay a little bit more for quality?
I do, Dr. Maria, but I also think it's a false dichotomy. I think what we're going to see when these tariffs are fully priced in is we're going to see a return of jobs. I think we're going to see wages go up, and I think we're going to see inflation go down. We're already seeing that. President Trump is not getting the credit that he deserves. He's driving down the cost of groceries, of eggs, of a whole litany of other consumer goods coming off the highs of the Biden administration where everything was becoming unaffordable. So we're going to bring back good quality jobs. We're going to revive and protect American industries, whether it's the shrimpers in the Gulf or auto manufacturers in Michigan. All of these different industries in the United States have gotten the short end of the stick. They've been exposed to unfair trade practices, this uneven playing field for so long. Many people have falsely claimed it was free trade, but it's never been free trade because we can't export the same way that others can import. They can just flood our markets, but we can't flood theirs. So it's never going to be a fair trade deal. And that's what we need here. We need more fair trade. And with something like shrimp, for instance, many of the big arguments against these tariffs are, it's going to take time to rebuild the factories, to retrain the workforce. The shrimp is just sitting there. There's nothing stopping us from getting all this shrimp from the Gulf. I mean, we have these resources. We have these natural resources. We have the fish. We have poultry. I saw recently that we have to import even things like beef and other agricultural products. I mean, this is insane. We've completely become dependent on cheap foreign goods of a lower quality, and we're hollowing out our country for absolutely no reason. So I think it's a return to norms. It's a return to sanity. And these are the same policies that our country was built on. It was built on a strong tariff and protection of American industry, and I'm glad to see President Trump return to that.
He's really living up to his reputation, which I coined him the people's president, and he surely is.
Amen. I mean, he is working for the American people. He's working for working class Americans, the forgotten men and women, the union members, the blue collar workers. These are all the Americans that have been left behind from years of both Republican and Democrat negligence. And I think he's built a new coalition. I think he recognizes that coalition is the future to him, his success politically, and his party's success politically, and of course the country's success economically and otherwise. And we need to be the party of the working people. We need to be the party of American industry and American labor. And I'm glad to see that's finally happening. And I think we could put aside the stock market for a little bit. It's been running on a high for quite some time. This is a blip in the grand scheme of things, and the markets will bounce back, and they'll bounce back in a big way once we're done realigning and reorienting this economy.
Yes, I believe that as well. Now, you have your finger on the pulse of what's happening in New York City. Mayor Eric Adams, running for re-election, has changed parties. The Democrat Party has actually turned their back on him, and they seem to be embracing Andrew Cuomo. So Eric Adams is going to be on the independent ticket. But I'm curious how New Yorkers feel about Andrew. He's doing so well in the polls, but here's a guy who lied repeatedly as governor, put infected COVID patients in nursing homes where you have immunocompromised older adults, and the death rate was immense in New York City.
Yeah, it's an interesting political environment. We haven't seen anything like this in New York City in quite a while. It's a very divided field, starting with Mayor Eric Adams. He's sounding more and more like a Republican every day. You know, he used to be a Republican. Many people forget that. And he certainly ran on a very law and order campaign platform. But he was, you know, abandoned by his party. He was attacked by his party. They wanted to make an example of him because he began to shift on issues like the mass migrant crisis and even law and order. And look, I think, you know, now that he has effectively gotten away with these I thought they were ridiculous charges, even though I'm not exactly the biggest fan of him. I welcome his run as an independent. I think it was the right move. I think his party has left him. And I think any way to split the field, mayoral field, in as many ways as possible is fantastic for Republicans, namely Curtis Sliwa. So strong plurality is certainly in the cards for a Republican candidate when you have all these different candidates running and tearing apart the Democrat coalition. And I think it also would be good for down ballot races like the city council, where the real power lies in the city and can really make and really what determines how we change the direction of city governance. But you look at someone like Andrew Cuomo, he's looking for a way to revitalize his career. I mean, many people forget he was even talked about for president back before the COVID scandals and the sex scandals broke. But he's also running a sort of a moderate line. He's certainly running to the party's right compared to some of the more left-wing elements in the New York City Democrat Party. So what we're seeing here is a complete implosion of the Democrat machine. It's a good thing. I'm happy to see it. But it's also scary that they're moving so far left that even people like Andrew Cuomo and Eric Adams seem moderate by comparison. And these were not moderate guys by any means in terms of their governance, especially until recently. As you mentioned, Andrew Cuomo was a disaster for New York. His policies during COVID were nothing short of tyrannical. And I think people can't forget that, even though he may be a smooth talker and like to present himself as in a certain way. These are things that need to be considered. And I think they will be brought up as this election goes on. I don't think he's going to be running unscathed. I think a lot of his past discretions are going to come back to haunt him. But I think this is anyone's race right now, which is incredible to say. I think Mayor Adams has a strong outer borough base of working class Black support. I think you have Andrew Cuomo with a strong base of upper middle class to wealthy Manhattanites. I think you have Zoran doing well in the Bronx, and I think Curtis could do very well in Queens and Staten Island, more of the Republican bastions. Those were the areas that historically both Bloomberg and Giuliani carried in terms of their coalition. So I think we're seeing a unique race underway here in Gotham, and I'm excited for it.
Well, I'm excited that you're around because you lead a wonderful group, the Young Republican Club. How do people keep in touch with you, Gavin? How do people follow you?
Well, thank you again for having me on, and you can follow me at Gavin Wax. That's on X, Facebook, Instagram, all other social media, and you can follow the New York Young Republican Club. We are the oldest and largest young Republican club, frankly, in the country, at NYYRC, NYYRC.com. Always hosting events. We cover the entire metro area, and we'd love to have you join and get involved and help turn the city and state red once more.
Excellent. Thank you, Gavin.
Thank you, Dr. Maria. It was great.
I want to remind you, this is the LindellTV network. Mike Lindell. Mike's been through a lot. He was targeted because of his conservative views and because he supported election integrity, and he supported Donald Trump. But what you may not know is his company, MyPillow, is employee owned. He no longer owns the whole company. He divested it so his employees own it. So let's support them with quality products as well. I shop at MyPillow. They have great products, not just a pillow. They have slippers and bathrobes and towels and sheets. I am telling you, I could never, ever just sell something because somebody asked me to do it. I have to believe in it. And I believe in MyPillow products. I use them in my house, and I've purchased several things for family members as well. So please go to mypillow.com and support American-made products. In this case, you won't be paying more. Mike always has incredible sales, and there's one going on right now. So go to mypillow.com. Well, thank you for joining me again. It's a Friday night. I hope the protest in Washington will be peaceful. And may I say, people, stop attacking people who own Teslas or stop destroying property. Look at yourselves in the mirror. I don't understand what you're protesting, number one, but you should never, ever destroy anybody else's property. That's a crime. So stop it, grow up, get a job, and let's keep moving this country forward together. Why don't you seek to understand about this America First movement? Don't listen to the people who are trying to get you to hate. You're better than that. Have a wonderful weekend. I will see you on Monday night.